Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. I hope you had a good day. Let's quiet down, turn inward. Try to listen for the thoughts that pass your mind or your heart, your being. And may my voice only be a type of instigator. Something that ignites the thoughts in your own mind, your own heart. Let's listen to Plato. Stranger. But what would you think of another sort of power or science? Young Socrates. What science? Stranger. The science which has to do with military operations against our enemies. Is that to be regarded as a science or not? Young Socrates. How can generalship and military tactics be regarded as other than a science? Stranger. And is the art which is able and knows how to advise when we are to go to war or to make peace the same as this or different? Young Socrates. If we are to be consistent, we must say different. Stranger. And we must also suppose that this rules the other, if we are not to give up our former notion. True. And considering how great and terrible the whole art of war is, can we imagine any which is superior to it but the truly royal? No other. The art of the general is only ministerial and therefore not political? Exactly. Once more, let us consider the nature of the righteous judge. Very good. Does he do anything but decide the dealings of man with one another to be just or unjust, in accordance with the standard which he receives from the king and legislator, showing his own peculiar virtue only in this, that he is not perverted by gifts or fears or pity, or by any sort of favor or enmity, into deciding the suit of men with one another contrary to the appointment of the legislator? Young Socrates. No, this office is such as you describe. Stranger. Then the inference is that the power of the judge is not royal, but only the power of the guardian of the law, which ministers to the royal power. True. The review of all these sciences show that none of them is political or royal. For the truly royal ought not itself to act, but to rule over those who are able to act. I know a few managers who think that that is their role. The king ought to know what is and what is not a fitting opportunity for taking the initiative in matters of the greatest importance, while others should execute his orders. The king ought to know what is and what is not a fitting opportunity for taking the initiative in matters of the greatest importance. while others should execute his orders. True. And therefore the arts which we have described, as they have no authority over themselves or one another, but are each of them concerned with some special action of their own, have, as they ought to have, special names corresponding to their several actions. I agree. And the science which is over them all and has charge of the laws and of all matters affecting the state, and truly weaves them all into one, if we would describe under a name characteristic of their common nature, most truly we may call politics, or the statesmanship. Exactly so. Then now that we have discovered the various classes in a state, shall I analyze politics after the pattern which weaving supplied? I greatly wish that you would. Then I must describe the nature of the royal web and show how the various threads are woven into one piece. How the various threads are woven into one piece. Clearly. A task has to be accomplished which, although difficult, appears to be necessary. Certainly the attempt must be made. To assume that one part of virtue differs in kind from another is a position easily assailable by contentious disputants who appeal to popular opinion. I do not understand. Maybe it's my pronunciations, young Socrates, I'm sorry. Stranger. Let me put the matter in another way. I suppose that you would consider courage to be a part of virtue. Certainly I should. And you would think temperance to be different from courage, and likewise to be a part of virtue? True. I shall venture to put forward a strange theory about them. What is it? That they are two principles which thoroughly hate one another and are antagonistic throughout a great part of nature. How singular! Yes, very, for all the parts of virtue are commonly said to be friendly to one another. Yes. Then let us carefully investigate whether this is universally true, or whether there are not parts of virtue which are at war with their kindred in some respect. Young Socrates, tell me how we should consider that question. Stranger, we must extend our inquiry to all those things which we consider beautiful and at the same time place in two opposite classes. Explain what they are. What are they? Stranger, acuteness and quickness, whether in body or soul, or in the movement of sound, and in the imitations of them, which painting and music supply. You must have praised yourself before now, or be present when others praise them. Certainly. And do you remember the terms in which they were praised? I do not. I wonder whether I can explain to you in words the thought which is passing in my mind. Why not? Well, Wittgenstein would have something to say about that, I think. Stranger. You fancy that this is all so easy. Well, let us consider these notions with reference to the opposite classes of action under which they fall. When we praise quickness and energy and acuteness, whether of mind or body or sound, we express our praise of the quality which we admire by one word, and that one word is manliness or courage. The Greek only says courage, but it's the same as manliness. It's Andrea, and something like Andrea. Young Socrates, how? Stranger, we speak of an action as energetic and brave, quick and manly and vigorous too. And when we apply the name of which I speak as the common attribute of all these natures, we certainly praise them. True. And do we not often praise the quiet strain of action also? To be sure. And do we not then say the opposite of what we said of the other? How do you mean? We exclaim, how calm, how temperate, in admiration of the slow and quiet working of the intellect, and of the steadiness and gentleness in action, of smoothness and depth of voice, and of all rhythmic movement which has rhythm, and of music in general, when these have a proper solemnity. It's solemn. It's holy. Of all such actions we predicate not courage, but a name indicative of order. Very true. But when, on the other hand, either of these is out of place, the names of either are changed into terms of censure. How so? Too great sharpness or quickness or hardness is termed violence or madness. Too great slowness or gentleness is called cowardice or sluggishness. And we may observe that for the most part these qualities, and the temperance and manliness of the opposite characters, are arrayed as enemies on opposite sides, and do not mingle with one another in their respective actions. And if we pursue the inquiry, we shall find that men who have these different qualities of mind differ from one another. In what respect? In respect of all the qualities which I mentioned, and very likely of many others. According to their respective affinities to either class of actions, they distribute praise and blame. Praise to the actions which are akin to their own, blame to those of the opposite party, and out of this many quarrels and occasions of quarrel arise among them. True. The difference between the two classes is often a trivial concern, but in a state and when affecting really important matters, becomes of all disorders the most hateful. To what do you refer? To nothing short of the whole regulation of human life. For the orderly class are always ready to lead a peaceful life, quietly doing their own business, for this is their manner of behaving with all men at home, and they are equally ready to find some way of keeping the peace with foreign states. And on account of this fondness of theirs for peace, which is often out of season where their influence prevails, they become by degrees unwarlike and bring up their young men to be like themselves. They are at the mercy of their enemies, whence in a few years they and their children and the whole city often pass imperceptibly from the condition of free men into that of slaves. What a cruel fate! And now think of what happens with the more courageous natures. Are they not always inciting their country to go to war, owing to their excessive love of the military life? They raise up enemies against themselves, many and mighty, and either utterly ruin their native land or enslave and subject it to its foes. That again is true. Thus far our scripture of the evening. So we reach the administerial support of the king, the general and the judge. And indeed the king is said to weave all of this together. It was a beautiful, something of a web. Oh, I forgot. Temperance and courage. And how do you balance between these two? Because too much temperance leads to dullness and an inability to defend yourself. Whereas too much courage leads to constant striving and war. Enter Aristotle. I honestly do not see the clear break between the two. Except for the big one, of course. But that can be passed over. You just go like this. Then we have both. Right? I don't know. There were quite a lot of beautiful words in this passage, I found. I only wrote down one. A task has to be accomplished which, although difficult, seems to be necessary. It's funny, I spoke with Sarah today, and she's an astrologer, and she's not up to date with this, so she has no idea what I've been talking about. But she told me she looked at my chart, and apparently it's time for me to construct a worldview. Okay. A task has to be accomplished which, although difficult, seems to be necessary. I finished Nietzsche today. Not all of Nietzsche, of course, but as much as I will be able to read this year. I will return to him again next April. I will remember because I set a reminder in my calendar. And I hope Folly will play along. If not, I will just play by myself. I can entertain myself. But I'm done with Nietzsche for this year. It was quite difficult to read Ecce Homo, certain parts, because he reminded me too much of a man who like, oh, I'm the greatest at this and I'm the greatest at that. No one is as good as me in this. No one is as good as me in that. So reading him in this atmosphere kind of brings out the Dick in him. But I am curious, and I do not have the book that Folly recommended on that, about him as a naturalist, something like that. I would like to play with that. So from the Antichrist that I've got underlined. Every inch of truth has been conquered only after a struggle. Almost everything to which our heart, our love, and our trust in life cleaves has had to be sacrificed for it. Greatness of soul is necessary for this. The service of truth is the hardest of all services. I'm also reading a book about how Nietzsche does not deny truth, and this seems to support that very well. I'll read it back later. We are at the close of the month, and I did remember the entire month to wear my Dionysian and my Apollo rings. And I was thinking, well, tomorrow I need to be at the theater tomorrow night. I'm attending a musical, and it's month end at work, so I will be quite busy during the day. So I thought I'm going to do something that I don't usually do. I'm going to record 2 tonight, which gives me a great excuse to pour and then to drink during the other recording. So this is a sweet wine I generally use in ritual. And I think it's appropriate to end the month of Dionysus with the Dionysus wine. It's like really cheap, but it's good. And it's not a lot that you drink because it's ritual purposes. Any glass becomes a chalice in the hands of the woman. I do have 2 chalices, but you won't be able to see the wine in them. It's not opaque, see-through. Long live Dionysus. And may the spirit of Sophia be with you.